All right, Culturedog Sam Hatch back again with another video and a much delayed video. I've been promising to drop this A through Z collection of Laserdiscs for a while now, ever since shortly after starting my channel. Again, thanks for everybody for making this channel kind of a cool place to hang out for myself at least, and hopefully for some of you others out there. And I just started it a couple months ago, and it's already taken off. And thanks for all the subscribers. It just hit 100 subscribers. I know it's kind of small in the world of viral YouTube land, but I totally appreciate each and every one of you that took your time to hit like or subscribe or just watch the videos. So cheers. Anyways, this is kind of apropos. I'm on my kind of holiday break. It's shortly after New Year's, and this time last year was when I kind of first encountered some videos on YouTube that led me on the path to starting my own channel. And it started with me tripping across people doing VHS openers, which is just videos of people recording the first bit of information on VHS tapes, everything leading up to the actual start of the film. So all the the studio trailers and all the the upcoming previews and stuff like that. And then I don't even begin to deign to understand what that's all about. But if that's your bag, more power to you. But then it led me from that to seeing people's collections of VHS tapes and DVD collections. And one, I'm a big fan of physical media and libraries. Two, I think it was feeding into my ASMR. Not sure about that. But then three, I realized, hey, I love collecting things, but one of the coolest things in my collection is my set of Laserdisc releases. So I thought, maybe I'll search for Laserdisc, and lo and behold, I found Zara Nizarac's collection and a ton of other people having their collections online. And I thought, all right, I'm going to watch all of these. And then it led to a kind of obsession where I would type Laserdisc into the search engine on YouTube at least once a week, if not more. And then I realized, I'm going to have to start generating some of my own product since I've run out of Laserdisc material to watch. Guaranteed, if there's a video out there that has Laserdisc involved in it some way, I've probably seen it. So cheers to all of you out there. But anyways, let's jump into my Laserdisc collection. And I do apologize that there are going to be a lot of commons in here. I know if you are a hardcore collector nowadays, a lot of your collection is derived from buying lots of Laserdiscs. And it's that sad part now where you kind of become almost like numb to certain releases because you see them so often, because they were popular releases, things like Jurassic Park and Braveheart and Twister, etc. So if you are buying lots of Laserdiscs, guaranteed you're going to find a copy of Star Wars or The Lion King or something in there. So after a while, you kind of grow jaded, and you call those titles commons. And you buy a lot of Laserdiscs, and you expect it all to be like elite, special editions and Criterions and stuff like that. So every time you see a copy of Braveheart, you're like, ugh! And I don't know if you really make that face, but I apologize if I'm generalizing. But anyway, so if you were to buy my collection, you'd go, ugh! These are all commons, and you'd kick the box and you'd run away and pout. I don't know if you'd really do that again. Apologies for generalizing, but I figured I would lower your expectations before raising them with weird titles like Dunderklumpen. Alright, let's start with the A's. Jumping right into Amazing Stories. I bought this one because it is book 2. There were a few releases of this and a few Japanese releases, but this is 2 of my favorites, and if I remember correctly, these are from the second season, so they're not on DVD. There is a really nice first season DVD box that you can get. But this has Go to the Head of the Class and Family Dog. 2 killer releases. Go to the Head of the Class is almost like an unreleased Robert Zemeckis flick. He directed it. It's got Christopher Lloyd, Mary Stuart Masterson, and Scott Coffey. And it's about these teen kids, and they're all obsessed with the occult and all sorts of nasty stuff, punk music and whatnot. And their teacher, English teacher played by Christopher Lloyd, is a stodgy old bastard, really. They're punks, and they decide to give him his comeuppance with some black magic. And it's great stuff. I mean, I think it even has, does it even have Alan Silvestri doing the music? Yeah, Mick Garris even wrote the story, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it doesn't give music credits. But yeah, if you like Robert Zemeckis flicks, you're going to want to check that out. And then Family Dog was an animated feature that Brad Bird did. So it's got Mercedes McCambridge and Stan Freberg, Annie Potts doing voices. I used to watch that VHS copy that I taped off the air over and over and over again. So a great release. They did eventually turn it into a full-blown series, which wasn't as successful or as entertaining as this one short, but definitely worth grabbing that set. This I picked up before the Signature Collection was available, so I never really felt the need to double dip. I probably will eventually just replace this with the Signature Collection, but Apollo 13, I had pre-ordered this at Suncoast. I want to say they might have given you like a 5 or 10% discount, but I know they were really heavy on asking you to pre-order titles, and there was a period when I was going into Suncoast on a regular basis buying Laserdisc, so I eventually said, well, I'm probably going to buy Apollo 13, so why don't I just pre-order it? So I did, and yeah, it's a letterbox version with just the Matrix surround track. It does have THX though. But yeah, good stuff. It's a really nice transfer too. And this film I mentioned in my Japanese Laserdisc release. I was a huge fan of it. I had the script before the movie came out in theaters. I was slightly disappointed with the ending of this version because I was so used to the apocalyptic ending from the script, but I still had to pick it up, and I got this used at Laser Craze Army of Darkness. It does have some creases on the corners. It was a used copy in Boston, so who knows what this went through before it got to me. The disc is still in great shape, and I've taken this to countless parties and whatnot, and shown it to a lot of people, so it's kind of a piece that I can't get rid of. I'm going to have to hold on to this one. Maybe I'll get buried with it. Again, just PCM surround, Dolby surround in Matrix action, and letterbox goodness. And I think, side 2 is CAV. Side 1 CLV. Yeah, this flick I missed in the 90s altogether. I don't know how, but it's actually pretty cool considering it's Richard Donner directing and written by the Wachowski brothers and Brian Helgeland. But yeah, combo there. Assassins, Sylvester Stallone and slightly over the top Antonio Banderas and Julianne Moore. And one, it's super fun now for the 90s. I love all the 90s tech films, like when you have floppy disks and 3.5 floppy disks with all the information on. I just watched Eraser recently with the 3-inch CDRs, and that was like the top level of data storage at the time. So cool that a lot of this is involving some old 90s computer tech. But yeah, cool finale, kind of showdown, shootout action, and it's a fun flick for sure. This was the first DVD I actually purchased. My modus operandi for getting new pieces of merchandise and new tech is to buy a piece of software first, and then I figured that'll force my hand into actually buying the player. And in the case of DVD, I bought Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. I missed it in the theaters. I caught it on the hotel cable channel one time when I was staying up in Boston, and fell in love with it and said, I got to get this. So I did have it on the old Snapper case DVD, and I thought, let's go for the Laserdisc. It's got all the same special features basically, and it's just great having the artwork spread across 12 inches. It does have Dolby Digital track and commentary from Jay Roach and Mike Myers. Really, really fun stuff. One of these days I'll get the Spy Who Shagged Me on Laserdisc as well. So now I'm reverting. I'm getting rid of my first DVD and going back to Laserdisc. This I just picked up recently. Speaking of modus operandi, the whole kind of purpose behind my newfound collection of Laserdiscs is, because I inherited a bunch of stuff from a friend of mine, and then I thought, I really haven't been buying many, and I'd even traded in some that I had doubles on, films like Braveheart I used to have on Laserdisc, and then I bought on DVD and got rid of the Laserdisc. And then I said, well, if I'm going to start collecting them, why don't I start getting all the films from the 90s that were, not necessarily blockbusters, but big Hollywood, or Hollywood titles that I just never went and saw. And then now I can kind of have like a Laserdisc retro experience, watch them on Laserdisc, and if I really love them, maybe I'll get them on Blu-ray. There's films like, obviously, David Fincher films that I'm going to have on every media possible, but there's some films that I don't really necessarily need to have anything beyond the Laserdisc. So Bad Girls is one of those titles I got recently. Mary Stuart Masterson showing up again, Madeline Stowe, Annie McDowell, and Drew Barrymore in a kind of female Young Guns, and Jonathan Kaplan directed. So I'm not expecting too much from it. I still haven't watched it yet. I remember it getting lukewarm reviews when it hit theaters. I do believe it is not AC3, I think it's just 1.85 letterbox, and probably Matrix around. But yeah, got that brand new just recently. This one I also got brand new recently. I had rented this from a Laserdisc rental store. Believe it or not, there were Laserdisc rental stores back in the day. And I had rented this copy from was a live home video. And originally it had a track by Schoolie D featuring samples, or actually I don't even think it was samples. I think it was just a band recreation of the riff from Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. And then it was the lawsuit was apparently either brought to light or just threatened, and it was taken off the market and reissued with a different track. But Bad Lieutenant, Abel Ferrara's flick, totally insane. Harvey Keitel is a total misanthropic bastard, and maybe a glimmer of hope in there somewhere. But if you've seen the Nicolas Cage rendition or sequel or whatever you want to call it in New Orleans, then you'll kind of know what to expect here. There's some intense stuff and some super quotable lines too, perhaps. But yeah, this is I love the artwork. I love that bright kind of salmon pink thing going on there for the logo. And yeah, so it's got the Schoolie D track on it, thankfully. And it's not even widescreen. It's either, I don't even know if it's pan and scan or if it's just, I doubt this was 2.35 to 1. It's probably just unmatted. But it's a really nasty transfer, actually. It's not something I'd recommend someone for like quality Laserdisc viewing purposes, but I just liked it for the original content. This I inherited from my buddy. This was kind of his pride and joy. He was a huge Barbarella fan. Yeah, there's Duran Duran over there in the corner. Love that cover art. I mean, how can you go wrong with that for Laserdisc? That's pretty much what the draw is nowadays for a lot of people, is just kind of getting these things and framing them. That's not really my bag. I haven't framed any of my Laserdiscs. I watch them. But, yeah, cool release, two sides, and this was kind of the way to get the film for a while. I think just shortly after he gave this to me, it came out on Blu-ray, but that's usually how it happens for me. I'll find some sort of holy grail, and then immediately thereafter it gets released, like on Blu-ray. But, yeah, I hope to have him over sometime. We'll watch that, fire that up. This is a film that, again, I'd meant to watch in the 90s, just never got around to it, and just picked it up recently. Basketball Diaries. It is a punch-out, but I got it in great condition as part of a lot with another DiCaprio flick. And, yeah, it's about Jim Carroll and his early years, just causing trouble in New York, and, eventually later becomes novelist and musician, etc. So, yeah, there's some drugs, that kind of stuff. Good times. And this, man, I remember renting this from one of those, I don't know if you remember before Redbox, they used to have these, like, VHS vending machines, basically rental vending machines, where you'd pick your selection and put the number in, and this robot arm would come and maneuver around and grab out hackers and drop it in a bin, and you could rent it for 2 days, or else it would charge your credit card or whatever. But yeah, so I rented this and really liked it, and then figured I would pick up the Laserdisc. Never got around to it until I hit one of those community tag sale deals years ago, and the guy had a couple crates of Laserdiscs, and I picked this up for a few dollars. Batman Mask of the Phantasm, really cool flick, and I was a fan of the Batman animated series on TV, so this was kind of a no-brainer. I mean, even Siskel and Ebert were giving this film kudos back in the day, so it's kind of regarded in the same sphere as the Tim Burton Batmans, and certainly better than the Schumacher Batman. So. And Mark Hamill's Joker is wicked cool. So, cool release, indeed. This I got from my friend's lot. I still have not seen it, but it's a Jean-Jacques Annaud flick called The Bear. And no, it's not about going cruising in Provincetown. It's about a bear, and he's cute and cuddly, and that guy wants to cuddle with him, and apparently he doesn't get killed. But yeah, I haven't seen it yet, and is this just, digitally mastered PCM surround. I'll have to fire this up sometime soon. This is one of my all-time favorite films. I saw this in the theaters in 1986. Fell in love with it. Bought the soundtrack on vinyl. Bought the press kit, which I still have a copy of. Taped multiple copies off of cable in case one died. I had this kind of like backup contingency plan. And then I never had it in widescreen until I picked this up from Strawberries in the mid-90s. Big Trouble in Little China. This movie rules all. Desert Island flick for sure. Citizen Kane can suck it. This is going to the desert island with me. Sorry, Citizen Kane. Go in the corner and start sucking it. Big Trouble in Little China rules your face. It's true. So, anyways, John Carpenter flick. It is the best of the best. Awesomest quotes ever made. W.D. Richter doing the story here. So if you've seen Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, you're going to get a similar kind of genre-crossing explosion of fun. It kind of even presaging America's fascination with wuxia flicks and Hong Kong flicks. This came out in the period where Choi Hark flicks were kind of taking off in Hong Kong, but we weren't really paying any attention to it over here. So this film is definitely ahead of its time, and mixing in a lot of cool stuff with Chinese mythology, and just a crazy American lead that's really not a lead. He's just a sidekick that doesn't know he's a sidekick. Amazing flick. I've watched it 1,000 times. I used to keep a audio cassette copy of I just actually recorded the entire soundtrack of the film onto a 90-minute TDK cassette, and I would listen to that in my car on airplane flights. I was totally obsessed with Big Trouble in Little China. You should be too. Suck it, Citizen Kane. Up next is Black Rain, a film that I skipped in theaters and I picked up on, unfortunately, a pan and scan Laserdisc from Suncoast. That was the only way you could find it for the longest time. And I finally picked this up from Columbia House, the letterbox edition. It can get pretty noisy in the reds for sure, and it's definitely a dark and murky image from Jan de Bont doing the DP work on here, who later went on to direct things like Speed and Twister. But yeah, it's so cool because it's a Ridley Scott flick that's a little underrated, but also is just as almost futuristic as Blade Runner, despite the fact that it is set in modern day, in 1989 Japan. So yeah, really, really fun flick. I've seen this a billion times, and I'll probably see it a billion more. Black Rain. I covered this in my Halloween collection, or my challenge, Blood Ties. I recently picked up a new Punch-Out copy of this. It was originally a TV pilot on Fox, and not really just Anne Rice. It's more like modern vampire action, where they're infiltrating society and especially corporate structures of Long Beach, California. And it's pretty cool stuff. Jim McBride directed, and it's definitely worth checking out. Blood Ties. This film is a bit of a sleeper. It disappeared off of screens very quickly, despite the fact that there was an audience for the TV show. But Kids in the Hall Brain Candy. And this is a nice disc. 1, you get that killer cover art there. 2, it's got Dolby Digital. It's just a nice release, and really, really funny. A lot of great quotable lines in here. In fact, I quote lines from this movie all the time. In fact, me and my fiance usually do the bit with the "Are you nauseous? No, but I am a little dizzy," all the time. So that and the "Get in the vehicle, baby." You watch this and you'll see. You'll start quoting lines from it too. It's great. This my parents picked up for me, I believe, at Tower Records in clearance, and it is a Punch-Out, but brain scan. Again, it is not widescreen. I don't know what the theatrical exhibition of this was, if it was 2.35:1 or just Academy flat. But it is a John Flynn flick, and interestingly, Andrew Kevin Walker wrote the screenplay, who also did Seven. So pretty fascinating stuff there. Edward Furlong and Frank Langella are in it, and it's a mixed bag because, 1, the score is amazing. I even have the George S. Clinton does the music. I've got the soundtrack CD. Sets up such a mood, and the film itself is so moody. It's this kind of like weird abstract surrealism. Edward Furlong is living in this giant house, but mostly he's living in his room, which is this entire loft in this inexplicably huge house where his father is missing most of the time, and it's just kind of weird. You have to kind of think about, like, what's going on here? Why is he here? Why does he have this much freedom? And he's got this amazing array of electronics, and he's addicted to CDR CD-ROM games, and he gets a CD-ROM game that starts bleeding over into real life, where it's there's murders in the game that actually happen in real life, and he may be the murderer or not. The only problem is this character comes along, and I always forgot if he's the trickster or the fartster. He's the trickster, and it's T. Ryder Smith playing him. And I don't even know if The Mask had come out by the time this film had come out, but it really just seems like it's wearing its "we want to be Jim Carrey, we want this to be a Jim Carrey moment" on its sleeve. There's a scene where he just completely derails the entire film on his arrival. There's this normally cool Primus song hits the soundtrack, and he bounces all around the house, and it becomes this really moody, existential, like surreal horror film, and then it immediately turns into Drop Dead Fred 2. And I can't even express how much that character just completely trashes this film and ruins everything that it sets up. And then it gets good again when he's gone. But you could tell they were trying way hard to get a new Freddy Krueger, to establish a new, film franchise character. But it didn't work. This film I saw in the theaters way back in the day. And I picked this up not too long ago, actually, because Brainstorm, for a while, this is the only way. Not only is it deluxe letterbox, but this was the only way to get the shifting aspect ratios and experience it on home video. If you've seen Galaxy Quest, how it kind of changes aspect ratios as it goes, this did the same thing. Douglas Trumbull, normally known for doing a lot of special effects work, this was his kind of directorial effort, and Christopher Walken and Ellie Wood are great in it. Louise Fletcher is amazing too. Cliff Robertson, great in it. And it does get a little goofy in the end. I didn't really see it that much in the 80s. I mean, I saw the film, but I didn't see the goofiness per se. And now watching it, it does get pretty silly with, wacky robots and all that kind of stuff. But the scenes in the film that were captured, basically there's a machine that reads your brainwaves and stores them to a giant magnetic tape and then plays it back via a headset. The scenes within that dream, or that brainscape, were actually shot in widescreen. Like I think it was originally going to be like a 70mm thing, but that fell apart. So instead they just have like kind of a flat ratio, and then it expands to widescreen. And this was a film that, if you watch it on a like a 4:3 TV, it would actually be pillar boxed or window boxed with just a small image in the middle, and then it will break wider for the brain dream sequences or whatever you call them. But yeah, immediately after I bought this, it came out on Blu-ray with the same features. So again, as always, and let's see if we can tear through the rest of the B's. Breakdown I picked up recently as part of a lot. I'd always wanted to see this in the 80s. I'd seen the trailer in the theaters, but never got a chance to. Dolby Digital, and yeah, looks like it's going to be a fun flick. I saw this in the theaters and was kind of disappointed. Being a huge John Woo fan, pretty much his early releases in the States were definitely disappointing because he was chasing more of the Michael Bay kind of dragon than what I was hoping he would do. But yeah, Travolta and Slater chasing down some missing nuclear weapons, and yeah, it's just a hot mess. There's even like a section in the scene in the middle where you can clearly tell a huge chunk of something went missing. Like there's a character in a river, and there's some danger, and like their hair's all wet, and the next second their hair's dry, the danger's gone for some reason, and yeah, so there was a lot taken out of this thing. But yeah, it's got Dolby Digital. It's a fun enough ride. Ain't it cool? Not really, but it's kind of cool. Speaking of John Woo, this is more like it. I picked this up in Chinatown on a trip with my friends. Bullet in the Head. And there are a ton of different incarnations of this. If you look online, you can see all the different comparisons between different versions, especially the ending is way different depending on which one you get. I think I also have a DVD copy of this. And Hong Kong Laserdiscs were weird. If it was longer than 2 hours, they would do 2 discs. But they would actually sell them separately. So if you got Drunken Master 2 by Jackie Chan, you'd have part 1, let me do my math, and part 2. And in order to fit this on one disc, they kind of cropped off some of the stuff at the end in particular. So this is a little more truncated than some of the versions on DVD. But it was cool having. It was worth picking up. All right, we'll stop off at B. We'll get into the C's and get through the rest of the first shelf cube. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope you had fun watching some of the Laserdiscs. I hope there weren't too many commons for you. And we'll see you back starting with C.